The Springboks announced a 43-man squad to take place in an alignment camp in Cape Town in March. However, they have left out some key players in domestic rugby in South Africa. Some players that have been in some seriously good form, some players that have already played for South Africa. Here are 6 players that I think they've left out unfairly, potentially. We're going to go over all the reasons why I think they haven't made this 43-man alignment squad and where these players should probably go from here. So the first player is obviously Aphiwe Dyantyi. He's lit up every single comment section on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. We went over why I thought Aphiwe Dyantyi did not get picked for this 43-man alignment squad in yesterday's video. So I'm not going to go into too much depth. But basically, we outlined that maybe he's not the build of a Springbok number 8. If you think about the best number 8s in the world, you think of Dwayne Vermeulen, you think of Pierre Spies in a Springbok jersey. Dyantyi is more agile, he offloads, maybe his defense isn't that as good. He isn't that big, stocky number 8 that we're used to in the number 8 jersey. Reason 2 is probably for the fact that there's just so much competition in South Africa for that number 8 jersey. In yesterday's video, we outlined about 10 other players that could play in that jersey, including Jasper Visser, Kwaka Smith, the experienced guys, as well as guys like Gumede and Cameron Hanekom. And then our final reason was just timing. Dyantyi is now 26. He's going to be 30 to 31 by the time the 2027 World Cup rolls around. So if you look at it objectively, I think Rassie, Rasmus and staff want to sort of nurture these younger number 8s into a mold that they're going to be happy with, and that is probably going to be the more ideal South African number 8. Moving on, the second player who's missed out and will probably feel a little bit hard done by is David Kriel, who plays for the Bulls. He's a very, very versatile rugby player. He can play pretty much any position in the backline. His bread and butter position is fullback, but we've seen him play on the wings. We've seen him play in the center role. He can probably even play fly off and, if need be, scrum off. We've seen that Jake White has shown tremendous faith in David Kriel and backs him, and I do think David Kriel will eventually get a chance in the Springbok jersey. It's just another one of those things that the depth we have in South African rugby at the moment is scary. As a utility back, he is competing with the likes of Damian Willemse, Lebok, Kanan Moody, and up-and-coming Sasha Mgumuzulu. So it's just a difficult time to be a rugby player in South Africa just because there's so many good rugby players. But nevertheless, I do think David Kriel will get a shot in a Springbok jersey at some point or another. The next player we're going to look at that didn't get picked for this squad is Joseph Dweba. Now, he does have 6 caps for the Springboks already, and for the past couple of years, he's sort of played that third fiddle role as hooker for the Springboks behind Bongi and Malcolm Marx. We saw that when South Africa needed a hooker in the 2023 World Cup, they ended up not calling up Dweba and just relying on Dion Fourie. And I think that speaks volumes of where Dweba is within the Springbok ranks at the moment. I think slowly but surely they're trying to phase him out. We've also seen that Rassie has brought in 4 uncapped hookers into this alignment camp who are very, very young. So everything is saying that Dweba is probably being phased out of a Springbok jersey. Obviously, we don't know this for sure. This is just my thinking. He's also 28 now, which means by the time the 2027 World Cup comes around, he's going to be 32, 33. And by that time, there'll probably be a whole lot more hookers for us to choose from. So as much as I like Joseph Dweba as a rugby player, I think his time has come in a Springbok jersey, which is why we probably haven't seen him being picked for this alignment camp. Next up, we've got Aphiwe Dyantyi. Now, Dyantyi, a couple of years ago, was looked at as almost this generational talent alongside Damian Willemse. He's agile, he can break open a backline easily, he's good under a high ball, he's more of a versatile back as well. His dominant position is fullback, but he can play on the wing, he can play outside center, maybe not as versatile as a David Kriel or a Damian Willemse, but Dyantyi was this generational talent that we were looking at in South African rugby. However, he did have a couple of caps for South Africa, but he kind of just fell away. It almost makes me feel like a Curwin Bosch, where Curwin has so much potential. He played for the Boks for a little bit, but I think what the Springboks definitely prioritize in backline players and obviously in forward players is defense. Now, like Curwin Bosch, Dyantyi's defense hasn't been great for the Sharks and for the Springboks. It is clear, though, that he is starting to make improvements this season. He's looking like a completely new player, and I do think with the form he's in, the the talent that he has, the options that he can give the Springboks, he can feel a little bit hard done by. Again, I just want to make the statement that for all these players, this isn't the Springboks or Rassie saying that they're never going to play for the Springboks. Again, this is just an alignment camp, and I think sometimes we read a little bit too deeply into who gets picked for these type of things. Fussy could definitely still play for the Springboks this year and into the future. I just think for right now, again, the competition is very, very tough, and Fussy just needs to work on his defense a little bit, but I do love Fussy as a rugby player. Next up, we've got a player who's been absolutely lighting up Loftus Versfeld, Ambrose Papi, who's kind of been on the brink of the Bulls setup for a couple of years. He starts on the bench, then he'll start a game, but now he's definitely the Bulls' best scrum off at the moment, and dare I say, the best scrum off in South Africa at the moment. Yes, Faf is injured. We've got so many scrum offs, Grant Williams, Herschel Jantjies, Jaden Hendrickse, but at the moment, Papier is the informed scrum off in South Africa. So I do think it's shocking that he hasn't been included in this 43-man alignment squad. He needs to start getting into the processes, because if he continues to play like this in a Bulls jersey, then we definitely want to see him in a Springbok jersey. I mean, he's won back-to-back man of the matches for the Bulls in the last 2 URC games. Jake White obviously backs him very heavily. Again, it comes down to the depth that South African rugby has at the moment. I mean, South Africa played with 4 scrum halves in one game in the Rugby World Cup. It just shows how much talent there is in South Africa. But for me, on this list, Ambrose Papi is definitely the one player that I think should be in that setup and probably should be considered for the upcoming Irish and obviously the Rugby Championship series later on in this year. And then finally, we've got a loose forward who plays number 8 for the Lions. It's Frankie Horn. Now, similar to Dyantyi, I think there's just way too much competition at the moment for the South African number 8 jersey. He's been playing some phenomenal rugby for the Lions, but he's just not on that level of the Hanekoms, the Gumedes, the Dwayne Vermeulen before he was retired, the Jasper Vissers. I think he's just below the line. He still is pretty young, so there's no doubt in my mind that he will put on a Springbok jersey at some point. It just comes back down to the whole depth conversation. And I think I'd like to conclude this video by saying that even though these players have not been selected for that 43-man alignment squad, South African rugby is in a very, very good place at the moment. As a South African fan, the depth that we have, the options that we have, the ability I have to make videos like this about players that haven't been included, where the fan base gets upset that players haven't been included in the South African lineup, is a positive thing, because we know now that we have so much depth, we have so many players to choose from, and I just think as fans, we shouldn't give this negative lighting. We should take this as a positive, that South African rugby is in a very, very good place. But let me know, as always, what you guys think in the comments. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave this video a like, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.